to Sunday Synth Chat. Today's going to be kind of a fun episode. First of all, I'm not shooting in the studio. There was several things going on downstairs with a lot more noise than I could shoot in. So I decided to bring the production upstairs to the dining room table. Primarily, there won't be any synthesizers used in this video, but I will talk about some. But before we get into that, I watched a movie about 2 weeks ago that I've been aware of ever since it came out in 1987, but I've never watched it. It was, I think it's called HeMan and the Masters of the Universe. It might just be Masters of the Universe. It's the live action version of HeMan. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, HeMan was a cartoon from the early 80s. There was a large line of toys that went along with it, many of which I had. My brother had the half I didn't. So we had quite a collection as kids, spent a lot of time playing with those. I saved a few of my favorites through, all through school and growing up, and even past getting married, and had them in a box for a lot of years, and sadly threw those away a few years ago. So I don't have them anymore. I wish now that, especially since I have some cool space in the studio where I would have liked to put them, I wish I still had them. But that being said, today in the mail arrived this. So this is a reissue Masters of the Universe HeMan action figure. The build is pretty well the same as what it used to look like. Articulation has been added to several points, including the knees and the ankles, and I think the wrists and elbows. I don't know where else. None of that was present when I played with HeMan toys as a kid. They moved at the shoulders, the head would turn, and they would turn at the waist, and then of course their legs would pivot. That was the extent of their movement. They're a little more elaborate now. However, I'm really excited to have this, and I'll have it up in the studio at some point. I don't probably plan to keep it in the package, which is good. If I was a mint in package collector, this would really frustrate me, and I've spent a lot of time today working on straightening this up. When I opened the box from Amazon, wherever it was packed, they had completely turned the card down to stuff it into the box. So I'm not sure whose decision that was, but I suppose they're trying to cut costs for shipping. At any rate, it doesn't matter to me. I'm not a collector. This is just for the nostalgia's sake. So I did get this, but wanted to talk about the movie, and that will relate back to synthesizers, so don't worry. But the first thing I wanted to mention about the movie was, I am not a movie critic. People will watch movies and they will pick up on stuff in them, or they'll know what's going to happen 10 minutes into the movie. I am not that deep. So movies for me are entertainment only. I don't spend a lot of time obsessing over them or trying to figure things out. It's a movie and I watch it and then I move on with life. But that being said, I do have a few points of criticism, I suppose, for the Masters of the Universe movie, which again, I did not go into with super high expectations, just because I didn't. I kind of didn't think there would be a whole lot to it. And I was right. But let me tell you about the disappointing part of the movie to me, the most disappointing part. Masters of the Universe is set in a fictional fantasy world. another universe somewhere. Meaning it is completely detached from the reality that we know. And what that means is that as a writer of a story, my thought is you have unlimited potential for where you could go. In other words, like, you could go to another planet. You could go to another city on the existing planet. There's just really no end to the places, the locales that could be made up when you're talking about a franchise like Masters of the Universe. So, without getting into the whole storyline, you spend a few minutes on the planet of Eternia, and specifically a lot of it spent in in Castle Grayskull. And we find the heroes having to make a quick escape, and so they're going to jump, I think, dimensions. Again, I'm not a good detail guy on movies. But the point being, they'll basically be able to disappear out of the castle and out of danger at the same time. So they program this key that transports you from one place to another, and the guy that made the key didn't have time to program it the way he would have liked to get them to a place where he could control where they go. So basically it was just random, we just got to get out of here now, so punch some buttons and hit go. And that's what happened. And of all of the imaginary places, in all of the imaginary galaxies, in all the imaginary universes, where do you think the writers of this story landed these fantasy characters? Modern day Earth. So again, I was just like, oh, you had such potential, and you had to land them on Earth. So again, I was not expecting a lot, but I'm like, I'm gonna power through this. I'm gonna watch this movie. I want to see what it's about. When the heroes get to Earth, again, trying to cut the story short here, they encounter a kid who I assume is right at the end of high school. He is a keyboard player in his local, I guess, high school band, and they are going to be playing a show that night in the school gymnasium. So you see this kid, and at some point he's in the gymnasium trying to set up for the gig that night. And all of a sudden I was like, oh wow, there's 2 keyboards on stage. That's super cool. And I was trying to identify what they were, and could tell one was a Rhodes electric piano, but he had 2 stacked. And the other was a Chroma Polaris, which I thought was really cool. It was neat to see that keyboard. It would be like seeing a modern movie now with a montage in it. So it's, it was contemporary. It was modern at that time. So it was really neat to see that. So the movie progresses more. This kid finds the key that HeMan and his friends used to teleport, and it's a cylinder shape. It's got buttons all over it, and when you press the buttons, it makes tones, it makes sounds. And so they find this thing laying on the ground. This kid picks it up. He's hearing these sounds come out, and he's like, oh, this is one of those new Japanese synthesizers. And so he said, I got to take this over to so and so at the music store and show it to him. So he walks into a 1987 music shop, and it was so cool because there were a couple of keyboards on display when he first came in, and I don't think I was ever able to identify those. There was a big Moog banner up on the wall. There was, let's see, I wrote some of these down. There was a Korg bumper sticker on the side of the cash register. His buddy was behind the counter, a big glass display case, but he had a sequential circuits synthesizer opened up like he was working on one, and I couldn't tell. I didn't see enough of what was there in order to make out what that keyboard was, what that synth was. And so you got, a few random shots of different ones here and there. There was also a Honer, but I'm not sure what model that was. There was a Univox Compact 2 that I also saw. Later in the movie, there's an actual battle in the music store, and literally some of these keyboards are on fire. It was heartbreaking to watch. But that being said, so, cut to the chase, HeMan and his friends reobtain this key, and they figure out how to program to get back where they need to, but Skeletor has wiped out the memory. So, great synthesizer terminology. He wiped out the memory of the key. They get the thing programmed to get it back, but then in order to hit the final button, it plays a chord. I think it was a chord. It's some kind of a tritone thing. So without knowing, again, the programming is lost, so when they press that button, nothing happens. So the keyboard player is with him, trying to help him, and he remembers what that sound was from when he was messing with that earlier. So he runs back into the burning music store and comes out with, basically a smoking Casio. And they, of course, are able to plug the Casio with this Earth technology into this fantasy world key, and they inject the tone that then activates the key and sends them back where they need to go. So, honestly, I guess if you look at it from a certain point of view, a synthesizer saves the universe, all the universes, I guess, because without it, He-Man wouldn't have got back to where he was supposed to be to defeat Skeletor. I mean, just in the nick of time. It was so close. I was sweating. But at any rate, it was cool to see those keyboards in their modern day setting, when they were, the latest and greatest. They were the cutting edge, and that was, right in the heyday of all the synth bands or synth music, 1987. It was hot and heavy then. It was really cool to see all that. So while I can't recommend the movie, if you can fast forward to the key moments in there, it's definitely worth seeing. Again, some of those synths on film. But yeah, movie critic, I didn't really care for that one. Again, I have several things that disturbed me about the movie, but won't go into that. But again, yeah, got this for the studio. Gonna make a nice addition. I may just, actually, I'd like to pick up a Battle Cat still. I used to have a Battle Cat that goes with it, so I'd like to see if they've remade one of those for this reissue or not. If they are, I may have to add one of those to the studio as well. Anyway, I know this is a little off the beaten path for Synth Chat, but I hope you enjoyed it anyway. Appreciate you sticking with me. Again, if you haven't had a chance to subscribe to the channel, I'd love to have you join up with us here, and we have good conversation. Hopefully some encouraging conversation on this channel, and I'm learning so much from you guys, the viewers, and what a help it's been. I hope that we all can continue to help each other out here and learn some new things together. So again, if you haven't had a chance, please hit subscribe. Appreciate a like on the video. Leave a comment. I'd love to know what you think of the content of the channel. Is there anything you'd like to hear about next, or whatever, just say hello. So anyway, that's it for this episode of Sunday Synth Chat, and we will see you next Sunday. Thanks. Bye.